Welcome back to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio, everybody. We're super excited to talk to you and share some ideas with you and share some thoughts. Today, our show is brought to you by Jase Medical. Make sure that you go to jasemedical.com and pick up your Jase case. If you use the code Prepper Talk, you'll get to have $10 off. However, if you'd like to win a Jase case, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for sure. We would love for you to subscribe to our Rumble channel and also join our Facebook group as well. It's Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance on Facebook. You can go to our Facebook page at Prepper Talk Radio, and you can go to where it says more and then click that and then go to groups, and you'll see our group there. That's growing pretty readily. But once we have 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, we're going to give away a Jase case. This is a 1-year supply, or at least it's a supply of medicine for about a year's worth of illnesses that anyone could have. And it's going to be the antibiotics necessary for you to be able to take care of those illnesses over the course of about a year's worth of treatment. So it's a fantastic case. I have mine. I'm going to be doing a video soon on kind of reviewing it. And so you're going to want to pick one of these up, or at least get one for free, or at least get into the contest so you get one for free. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about some of the things that are going on in the news. I think that if you've listened to us for the last little while, you'll see that some of our episodes, we're talking about what's going on in the news and the solutions around what we're thinking and feeling and how we're perceiving some of these news issues. And then some of our episodes, we're diving into specific topics. So if you'd like to see more of a specific topic talked about or discussed on the podcast, drop a comment, shoot us a message at preppertalkradio@gmail.com. And we'd love to maybe talk to you, chat with you, or maybe discuss anything that you want us to discuss. But today,
or Facebook Messenger as well. Facebook Messenger is a good place as well.
Absolutely. And so today we don't have, it's myself, Paris, and Shane. Scott is on a family vacation, and so the theme of the overall theme of our show is God, family, and country. And he's off with family, enjoying a vacation, doing some historical sites and looking. He was at Lincoln. I think he said it was at Lincoln's Memorial today, and the gravesite there today. So,
awesome.
Anyways, super cool. We're super excited that Scott's having that opportunity, but he's not with us today. He will be with us next week, though. So we're super excited to have him back when he comes back. But Shane, I know that you had a couple articles that you mentioned for sure that you wanted to discuss. Let's start off with one of those that you had that you wanted to talk about.
Well, I always have a long list of things to talk about as I go through my week. I'm listening to other podcasts as well. I mean, sure, like many of you, I'm sure are, and I don't want to be redundant. And hopefully, you are listening to some. And I think we should at some point put a list of the podcasts we're listening to, the other YouTube channels and such. Because I feel that, okay, if there's so many others that are talking about these topics, then we shouldn't need to cover them, right? I think our value comes in providing our perspective and then what we're doing to prepare for those events that are happening right now. But I also wanted to jump in, Paris, this, as you were talking about the giveaway, I'm going to add something to that out of my own personal stash. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I'm going to send out. We'll do the same random selection of someone who's on YouTube as well as in our group of 1,000. Once we hit 1,000, I'm going to give away a 5-ounce silver bar.
Dang!
And I'll mail it to you free of cost anywhere in the country. Here in the 48 states. I'll just say that for now, but just be sure to join both and like our videos and comment and interact with us, because that's where we find, I think, the most enjoyment. That's where I do is getting to be able to chat on Messenger or wherever with you guys and help provide some perspective. But I'm going to be sending out you a from my own personal stash, a 5-ounce silver bar.
I might even make a fake profile just to be able to see if I could win that, man. That's awesome.
Hey, give it a try, man. I don't know what to say. Anyway, I guess, for news, this week has definitely been weighing very heavy on my mind. The topic that keeps going through my head is emergency. We are in an emergency status right now. If you look at all the government policies, the banking policies that are being used right now, they're all emergency policies. They're all they have been. We've been in emergency status for many years. The President Trump declared an emergency back when he was president. I forget the date, but we're still in that emergency. We're still, he's still declared those emergencies, and we're still in those emergencies, and things keep getting worse. But
you're right.
that's the word. That's the word that keeps popping up in my mind.
I don't remember them released, like when FEMA came in. I don't remember they like extended it. I know they extended it because it was supposed to end, but I don't ever remember it actually being canceled. Maybe it was. If you know out there if it was, then let us know. But you're right. That's crazy.
That's how the government sees more power. They declare an emergency, and which gives them certain powers, which have already been declared in certain edicts or bills or in presidential directives, whatever you call them. And they've taken those powers, and not to get specific, but anyway, we are in an emergency situation right now, financially, as well as on the war front as well. Like I said, I've got a whole bunch of things here we could talk about. We want to again try and keep this short. It never happens. We're going to keep trying to keep this somewhat short for you guys. But a few things that have popped up, and I'll just list a few items right now, and we can talk about whatever, Paris, you think jumps to your mind. First of all, China and Russia. These are all really about China and Russia. What's going on? The big topics. China has said that they are cutting off all gas exports to Europe, and Europe is already hurting bad for gas, and I really feel bad for these, for everyone there in the UK and most of Europe. I don't know who specifically that applies to, but again, just more shots taking down their energy.
Well, they had the Russians already declared they're not going to send any more. The pipeline got hijacked by
got destroyed
by Greta,
damaged, and that as well. And
now China's saying that they were not going to send them any backups, reserves,
China
or anything.
I think they've already done it. They've already cut off their gas exports, and additionally, I think our administration is also considering cutting off any exports of gas. I don't know if it's just natural gas or oil over to Europe as well, to say, hey, we need it here, which is true. But I've also heard on the same topic is that the U.S. Is at the lowest stockpile of heating oil in as long as they've been keeping track. There is currently 26, maybe 25 days of heating oil in stock right now. So when we talk about what's going on in China, when we talk about what's going on in Ukraine and about energy and power and gas, and you think, oh, that's not going to happen here. There's nothing happening here. It is. We are going to experience these things. So we are sharing these so that we can see ahead, look into the future, look across the continent, and see that will eventually, come here. Or very high chance of those issues also coming here. And so, okay, we can see forward, then it gives us time to prepare. And I've already shared some things, in our previous podcast of what I'm doing to prepare for energy. But there's those things going on. Let's see, what else have I got on here? The Mississippi River.
You mentioned that China might be having some real significant interactions with Taiwan regarding semiconductors and chips like that.
That's true, because Biden, he has a semiconductor bill, this chips bill. I forget what this is called, but essentially, and I think it's already taken effect, saying that, okay, if you work for a Chinese semiconductor company, you will quit now or you will lose your U.S. citizenship. And I think that has already gone into effect. So it's already starting to wreak havoc in China. And what that means is, if they're not getting their chips they need, we're not going to get the products we want either. And also think about its relation to, say, Pearl Harbor. What happened at Pearl Harbor? The U.S. had stopped all oil going to Japan. And Japan had no choice but to attack, to try and disable our fleet, the U.S. fleet, so that they could get some oil through to their country. They had no other choice. So it seems like the U.S. is doing the same thing to China, which if they don't have chips, if we're not able, he has already said, okay, no more chip exports to China from the U.S. That's been a couple of weeks, and now they're pulling U.S. citizens out of China that work for semiconductors. And then there's South Korea, who creates. Taiwan that has the huge semiconductor factories.
Yeah.
And that's like, okay, no, we have no choice but to attack Taiwan for the semiconductors that we need. And of course, this administration's excuse is, well, they can build, high-tech weapons against us. That's what they're saying. That's why they're cutting off the chip supply and have this chip bill and such. So again, looking forward, okay, how do we prepare now? Go get what you need right now that has chips in it, and again, I can get more specific, but you're going to say something, Paris?
Well, I was just going to say, we don't know what the consequences of our actions are going to end up being. Like we didn't, and maybe they knew they were poking the bear back when Pearl Harbor hit. And I don't have any reason to doubt that somebody there kind of calculated that might be one of the responses. But we don't know what China's going to do. But we know what Japan did, and we know what China's threatened to do. I mean, if anybody's been paying attention the last couple of years, and here's the problem, is that things are happening so quickly. We got so much information coming at us constantly that we don't have room to, like, our cache memory in our brains is shortened. We don't even remember what did China threaten 6 months ago? I don't remember,
6 days ago.
Right. So they were threatening, fighting against us last year. They were issuing threats in their, to their propaganda to their people about stuff that they were going to do. And so to think that they're going to do something, or to think that they wouldn't do something like that with such a provocation is ridiculous.
And also, wise. And on top of that, I mean, they're experiencing, a housing collapse, which is collapsing their banking system. So they are also on the verge of financial collapse as well. They're having to sell US dollars to buy more of their currency to prop up their currency, which then how does that affect us? It sends more dollars back to the US and creates inflation. So now they're sending their inflation. We've been exporting our inflation to other countries because we have a trade deficit between China, huge trade deficit between China and other countries as well. And now they're going to be sending those dollars back to us and creating more inflation. So again, how do we prepare for that? We look across the ocean, we see what's happening, and then we, when I say me, myself, and I, look and, okay, and now how do I prepare for this? What is the best way for me to prepare for what looks like is coming this way? I see the wave out in the distance, like, oh, that looks pretty small, but it's a long ways off, so it's probably pretty big. And then just take steps to prepare.
You have to be looking at the horizon from time to time to kind of gauge where you are, but then look at your feet to know what the next step is. And so super important for us to realize what's that, like, maybe that storm passes you by, but it's not, maybe it doesn't pass your neighbor by, or maybe it doesn't pass the city over, or maybe the country over. We're in a world economy now, or at least moving toward it. And so you got to remember that when one thing starts to affect, it starts to have a domino situation a little bit. So you got to be careful with what you're looking at here, because you never know. You never know what that might do to ripple effect. And that China, what's interesting though, is earlier you were talking about how, some of this stuff we're talking about is Russia and China, which may not have a ton of effect here. I looked up this last week, and we actually had 40 downloads of our podcast in Russia. So somebody in Russia is listening to us, and to whoever you are, thank you. We have 250 in the last 30 days, 250 downloads in the United Kingdom and Sweden. So we got some Europeans that are listening in,
and we would love to hear from you guys. We'd love to hear your first person experience.
Yeah, if you've got some stuff to share with us on the first person, on the right there, not what the news is saying, not what the filtered news is giving us, but like what's boots on the ground. What are you guys seeing over there? And I think that China, that's a big deal. And not to mention, one of the other things that kind of just boggles your mind is you see the financial collapse, you hear about the housing problems, you hear about the things that are going on in China and the mortgages and the building, and then you hear about them buying up tons of gold. Like, if you're in collapse, how are you buying all this gold? And what are you doing? It's like the government has this little back door, like, hey, we're going to come over here and buy all this gold to keep ourselves
with printed currencies, right? I mean, but at least they're using it smart, a smart way. Let's print up some currency so we can go buy something real. And that's really what's been happening, is when we're exporting, we're sending all our dollars to China, and they're sending us their crap, that goes to Walmart, and the crap that we don't need, the junk we really don't need. They're taking our dollars. Hey, we're going to take these dollars and we're going to buy gold. We're going to buy real stuff with it. and other things I've got on my list here that I know you wanted me to cover, Paris,
Go
because
ahead.
again, we're already 15 minutes in, and I'm just touching on these things.
Well, let me just
Yeah, go ahead.
share that one of the things that I think that's really important in becoming self-reliant is getting down to what do you really need, a need versus a want, and recognizing that it's okay to have wants once your needs are met. And don't get rid of your wants. Don't eliminate them. Don't think that you've got to eat, top ramen and beans and rice for the rest of your life to order to get anywhere. But you definitely want to have steak every once in a while, but be frugal, be wise, be wise with your money, be wise with your resources, get the things that you need now, stock up, have 2 or 3 of everything if you can, in case something happens. And I have my brother actually, who listens to the podcast. He sent me a message I have it. In fact, it was a while ago. I'm sorry, Garrett. I should have probably mentioned this a while ago, but he actually had a part go out on his refrigerator, and he ordered it, and it was going to take a couple of weeks. He says, you know what? I should have probably ordered 2, because who knows when that part's going to go out again. And so this is the kind of stuff we're talking about. Like it's one thing to have a generator. It's one thing to have a solar power bank. It's one thing to have food storage. But if your refrigerator, your power bank, your generator aren't going to do you any good if a part on your refrigerator goes out and you can't even turn it on, so having extra parts for those major, like I have extra filters for my refrigerator too. So it's some of those things that you should get now while you can. And that's where you go through your lists of things and you say, look, what do I really need? What should I do to be prepared? What can I have 2 or 3 of that's reasonable? Don't go have 2 or 3 of you're going to have you don't want to be a hoarder.
See, Paris, that's a big problem with me, because I have lists so long that about all the spare things I could possibly need that I should get now. And Paris, when you come over and we record that video from the power station I built, I think you're going to see my closets and the storage of all the things I have of duplicate things that, I just might need this. No, I'm not a hoarder.
Oh, that's funny.
But I do always see those needs, like you're saying. Like, well, I could use maybe a second one of those. I don't know, at the moment where I'm going to use it, but I'm going to hang on to it because I just might need it in the future. And my wife calls me a little crazy and such, but usually it comes in handy. It's 1 is none, 2 is 1, and in the process, I'm in the process of duplicating my battery bank. Paris, you think I'm crazy? I just built this battery bank, and now I'm looking. Okay, I need a backup inverter. I need a backup solar generator, solar charge controller. So I'm in the process of doing that now, of getting backups, because for me that's a critical item.
Sure.
And it's easy enough to do, but to have multiple generators or multiple this and that, it's obviously very ridiculous, I think, at this point, to have more than you need, and that's also a topic we could talk about as well. Like you say, needs versus wants. Yes, I need 1 of this. Do I need 2, or do I want 2?
Good point.
We could take an entire show to talk about that.
And for those of you who are feeling far behind the 8 ball when you're comparing yourself to Shane's preps, don't feel bad. I'm also feeling that same thing. As I hear him talk about what he has, I'm like, dang, bro, I am so far behind. So
I've been
anyways,
doing this for a long time.
Yeah, you have.
And it has been a long process. And that, and I feel for a lot of people. I'm kind of in charge of my neighborhood and some of the emergency preparedness for our neighborhood, and helping people get ready, and even talking with family as well. Like, okay, where do I start? It's almost to the point where you can't start anymore. And I hate to say that, I hate to throw that out there, but I get to, I've gotten to the point where I've got my food storage, which is the most important thing. That's the one thing. If you've got that, you're going to be fine. If the rest are about comforts, it really is. It's about comforts. If you got your food storage and
your water storage,
you got some water filters, some of the basics, that's really all you need. And I've come to realize that here recently. Like, do I need a generator? No. Would it be nice? Yes. Do I need a whole bunch of guns? No. 1 or 2? Yes. And so, my brain has gotten to the point where, okay, I have the basics that I need. Where do I expand from there without going too crazy, right? And so it is definitely a bit of a struggle, for me to say, okay, I I have the means. Where is this going to go? Do I want to put it in the stock market? No.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to buy more precious metals? Yeah, maybe. Do I want to buy
Mm-hmm.
more food? Yeah, probably. Well, what good can I do with this? I'm to the point where like, okay, what can I do? What can I get to help more people? So it's an evolution. It's a process. And I'd like to take a whole show at some point and talk about that prepper's evolution. Scott and I talked about that years ago when we were doing the radio show, and it was one of my favorite topics. I think that
That's cool.
It's really an evolution, and it's kind of like Paris. I know you started carrying concealed, right? You got your well, you don't even need your permit, but a firearm, and you're learning how to conceal carry and how to shoot and how to be tactical and such. And for me, that was an incredible evolution, starting about 20 years ago, carrying and just evolving, and it's very similar that way.
You just got to start. Don't be overwhelmed. There's a lot out there.
You got to start.
I was just talking to a friend of mine this morning, and he was calling me about some life issues that he's going through and some challenges that are really legit. And I'm like, he's just, he just telling me, he's like, some days I'm depressed. I'm sad. It's just so much. And I said, look, at the end of the day, I told him this story. I said, look, I buy a book and it's 400 pages book. Let's say, and I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I don't have any time. I got all the stuff that I'm doing in my life. Who has time to read a book? But if I take 10 pages a day, I can read 10 pages a day. In 10 pages a day, that book's read in a month and a half. And I'm like, wow, by the time you break it down to small chunks, reduce it to the ridiculous is what they used to say in sales. Reduce it down to the ridiculous. Like, oh yeah, that's super. Like, I can read a 400-page book, 10 pages at a time, and get it done in 45 days. And then if you do that, you're literally reading 8 or 9 books a year. And how much better are you going to be? What better skill sets are you going to have if you took some time to say, okay, 30 minutes a day, I'm going to go watch a video. 40 minutes a day, I'm going to listen to the podcasts. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to increase my skill sets, and then go practice it, because that muscle memory is critical. In my interview with Todd in the last podcast, we did episode 215, I think. I talked to him about how my mind had already envisioned certain things because I had learned, I'd read, I'd watched, but then as I was shooting my firearm, as I was drawing the firearm, as I was aiming the firearm, my muscles were lagging way behind my mind and my thoughts and my perception and my vision. So it's now my role is to decrease the space between what I see and what my muscles can do. And that's the same thing with prepping. Like, yeah, you might see somebody with 2 years worth of food storage and you only have 1 can of tuna left, over after you're done eating. Well, that 1 can is where you start. And then they'll get 2 cans and then go get 3 cans. And then before you know it, you're going to have a year or 2 or 3 supply of food and water and everything else you need. That's just how it works. And that's how I've done it over the years too. And you have time. You just don't have time to waste, like literally no time to waste. And so that's something that's really important. Let's jump into a couple of more articles.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know did you have anything, Paris? I've got.
Well, I was just going to say, regarding the Russian issue, I know that the United States had a very big scare and real scare of martial law, and they had some things in certain cities and towns where they declared curfews. And so if you have a curfew, or if you can't, like Australia had some significant lockdowns or curfews when the pandemic hit, what did those people do to prepare and have the things that they needed? Well, Russia just now declared martial law in 4 regions of Ukraine. And so the claim goes. I hope
the 4 regions they just annexed, correct?
Yeah. And so I don't even want to pronounce it. Yeah. But
Donetsk.
What are the people in those places doing? If you get martial lawed, or if you get curfewed, do you have what you need at home to be able to survive through that? Like, if you can't go out to the store because you missed something, or you forgot to buy something at the grocery store when you went, you're stuck. You're in your house. So now you've got it. That's why it's so important to go through your inventory and have 1 or 2 of everything, so if you run out. And that's something that I was just going to share as a solution. That, yeah, here's what I think is that you don't always have to experience something to learn the lesson. You can learn lessons from the experiences of other people. And that's true with other countries. So if Russia is declaring martial law, yeah, that doesn't affect you, but that should cause you to think, wait a minute, what if martial law was declared in my city, state, whatever? What would I do? How would I be able to if it was declared for a week, if it was declared for a day, if it was declared for a month, what would I survive that? Like, run those what if scenarios, because those what if scenarios, and then write them down, and then that will give you some of the solutions to. You'll be amazed when you start to think. Thinking is hard work. When you actually start to think and ask yourself questions like, okay, if I was in martial law, what would I do? Your mind will come up with solutions, and you'll be able to write those down, and you'll be so much better prepared by taking the time to think. We just get out of your phone, get off your Xbox, get off your games, get out of your sitcom, and go think for 30 or 45 minutes and tell me what a difference that makes.
Get up a little bit earlier in the morning and be a man.
Yeah.
So yeah, a few things that maybe some of you haven't heard about. The Mississippi River right now, it's at a record low, and so the amount of traffic that goes up and down the Mississippi River is really mind-boggling. These barges that are carrying the crops down to Gulf of Mexico for export. Traffic is terribly backed up because in some sections of the river it's one lane, right, in just one way, and they have to take the turns going north to south, and it's just incredibly backed up, and there's really no solution at this point other than wait.
Wow.
And take your turn. It's pretty dire, and it's just all these little things that are adding up. When I talk about an emergency situation, we go about our lives, we watch the mainstream. Just like our administration says, this I think, what was his recent words? He said, our economy is strong as hell. That's what President said here just yesterday or day before. Like, no, I don't think so. And it's just lies. That's, I listen so much, I guess, that the lies just stand out to me, because I listen to both sides, and that's from the left, from the administration. That's almost all. Well, I would say that's all I hear, and it is very concerning to me. What's going to happen next is the big question. You've got the elections coming up here in the next month. It's a really desperate time for them. The administration again is dumping another 15 million barrels of our strategic oil reserve just to try and keep the price down. Yeah,
let me share something really fast. This is super funny. This is from the Babylon Bee. This came out regarding the economy being as strong as hell. So if you're on YouTube or Rumble, you're watching this. It says, Babylon Bee says, spokesperson for hell rejects Biden's claim that U.S. economy is strong as hell.
And see that. That's awesome.
Can you? I mean, imagine like the hell's fact checkers are like, nope, that's not true. Anyways, I thought that was funny.
That's awesome. Right. No, that's awesome. Anyway, so yeah, we got to keep it light. I mean, there's a lot. Relief. There's an awful lot going on, and it's like you said earlier, Paris. There's so much going on. It's hard to figure it out up here. It's about confusion as well. It's about keeping us confused and not able to figure out what the truth is, and if that's the case, then I err on the side of caution, right? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. I'm gonna be a little more careful about my choices, my decisions at this point. We need to talk. I know we need to talk more about solutions. We're going to take the next segment. We're going to talk about energy. We're going to talk about fuel and such in our next segment. And try and really get specific about different types of fuel, how to store, what's the safest, what's the best choice, what's my choice, what am I doing? Because we're coming into winter, and fuel is extremely important all the time, but even more so in winter, and especially what's going on over in Europe. We can definitely take some lessons for what they're doing over there. But other things in the news. Do you see how the East Coast, New York in particular, has a radiation emergency campaign going on? Right. Have you seen that? They've got billboards and things on buses, and what's that all about?
Yeah. What are they?
I know that that New York is a potential site that could be nuked. I mean, I don't want to go there, but the threat is there. It's said that right now the nuclear threat is higher than it's ever been, even from the Cuban Missile Crisis. The threat is even higher. That's hard to comprehend. I was alive, but I was a little kid. But so I don't understand exactly what that means realistically. I really have no fear about that, and we could talk about that in detail on another podcast. But I'm not really. And let me restate: I'm not scared about that here for us locally in our locale. I mean, other places of the world that could very well be a possibility.
And
But
even fallout, even if something happens a couple hundred miles away, we're still going to have a little bit of fallout that we need to
yeah,
just be aware of, not
yeah,
necessarily be. Yeah, I get what you're saying though.
yeah, and educate yourself on how to take care of yourself with fallout. It's not as big a deal as you might think, as it's maybe been told our entire lives as kids.
Yeah, there's
This
solutions.
nuclear winter. Yeah, there's things you can do, and to really be, I wouldn't say perfectly safe, but much more safe.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many things. I know we're starting to run long, but Mississippi River. Let's see. Oh yeah,
And
China.
that's important to determine, to realize and recognize, because we're hearing about all the cattle that are dying. We're hearing about all the food processing plants that are being burned. We're hearing about all the different crops that are being destroyed or not growing because of the drought in other places. Well, so that's one thing. So the yield or the resources aren't as big as they were before. So we're like, okay, well, at least we still have the distribution. We may not have as much, but at least we can still get it where we need it to. Well, nope, not anymore.
Yeah.
Not only do we not have enough resources, or what is what we're being told, but now we don't have a way to get it to people in the same way we used to, or at least at the same volume that we used to, which is another part of probably part of the plan, by the way, and which I totally agree with. So it's important to recognize that that's a huge deal. I mean, imagine having a freeway that I don't know, some interstate that's down to one lane. Like you're not, the traffic jam is going to be it's going to be ridiculous.
It'd be ridiculous. Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many things, and I definitely urge you guys to get out there and listen to other podcasts, and the ones that talk about news topics in particular. Like I say, we usually like to talk about solutions, and some of these things really, the only solutions are to just become more self-reliant.
Yeah.
Have your food storage, like the things we always preach, right? Broken record. Get your food storage, get your water storage. Have some things to protect you with, firearms and such, and have some savings. Yes, the dollar is losing value. Yes, it's strong compared to other currencies. Yes, it's going up. Yes, our inflation is continues to go up. A lot of the commentary I listen to is, this is not an interest rate problem. It's a monetary problem, and raising the interest rate is not going to correct. It's not going to fix the interest. It's not going to fix the inflation problem. It
might be part of the solution, but it's not going to fix it totally. Yeah.
Temporarily. I mean, it's the currency's already been created. It's already been printed. It's already out there. The inflation has already been created. It's just about those dollars coming back to us. The chicken coming home to roost, and with the dollar being stronger, that's what's happening. The dollars are coming back. They're flooding back and causing inflation here in the U.S. instead of elsewhere. And it's expected that interest is going to be that the Fed's going to raise interest rates again in November. I don't know how we can survive, or these banks, the economy, the financial system can survive with the higher interest rates, because everything's tied to the dollar. There's dollar loans all over the world, from countries and businesses, and it's getting more and more expensive for them to pay their debts, pay their bills. And they were already underwater at the time anyway. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes we're just not seeing in the banking system that's keeping it afloat, keeping it propped up. For how long that can happen, I don't know. Longer than I can stay solvent, probably, right?
Seriously. So I mean, the bottom line is, the guys, we cannot stick our heads in the sand and expect to survive. And we've got to be aware of what's going on in the world, and aware of the problems, and as much as we can possibly handle awareness too, because you don't really, you might say, well, I have a solution, and then you really haven't delved into what the problem really is. So does your solution really apply to that problem? The best way to come up with a solution, and here's the thing is, I genuinely believe my solution might be different than your solution, and Shane's solution, and Scott's solution. We might all have different solutions. And the way to find out what your solution is to think for a minute. Stop. Get quiet. If you go in your room, turn off the light if you need to. get a pad of paper and just think, okay, these are the scenarios. This is what's going on in the world. What can I do to be and to plan? If you don't plan, you're going to fail. And that's the key thing, is plan as much as your life as possible. Take time to write out what's going on in your life, articulate it. What would if you're in a bad situation right now, what would that look like what would you like to be in? And then write that down. What's your ideal situation? And then create a path to it and then go get it. You can't put your head in the sand and expect to be self-reliant and expect to survive. You've got to be aware, but don't be a panic.
Yeah.
Don't get into the paralysis of analysis and be stuck. You want to and be frozen when the problem hits you.
Yeah. One last comment I wanted to say is, we kind of got into the down the road a little bit, is, I've been focused on this for a long time. And, part of that focus is prayer. There are certain things that we need in our family that at times I just could not see the way that it was going to happen. But being consistent and persistent with prayer and preparation and just moving forward and not being afraid and just taking small steps. And the Lord provided for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked him to continue to provide, because we're not done yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just with that consistent effort of prayer and planning and writing it down and having goals and moving forward, those things will happen for you. I promise. They've happened for me. And I know for Paris too. And Scott is also on that track as well. He's an animal, I tell you. He is as determined as anybody. And that, I think, it really is the key. That's the only thing that's going to save us in the end, is prayer in our Savior Jesus Christ and his gospel. And that's my testimony, I tell you, right there. And it's been proven true in my life.
Amen, brother. I appreciate that. Well, let's close it off with that. And just remember to go to preppertalkradio.com and download any resources we have. Join our email list. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you don't like YouTube, just hit subscribe button and then go watch us on Rumble. And then also join our Facebook group. Make comments, get involved, ask questions, whatever you feel like you need to do, and help others maybe answer some questions too for them if you're a little more experienced. Help us to get to 1,000 subscribers so that we can have our Jase case giveaway. And we're super excited to spend some time with you. And we're hopeful that you're getting good information out of this, and that we really do believe that first and foremost is God, and then our family, and then our country. We need to be aware of what's going on in the world so that we can protect those things as men and as providers, as women, as providers. And you guys be prepared, stay ready-minded. Until the next time, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.